Hi everyone, today we're going to look at one of my rapid games played on chess.com around 1600 ELO. The time control for this game was 10+0, and I wanted to show this game to highlight a common mistake that I see intermediate players make a lot, myself included. In this game, my opponent strays away from mainline opening theory but ends up transposing back straight away into an opening he's clearly not comfortable in. Now, there's nothing wrong with playing an offbeat opening, but you should still study the main ideas and popular moves so that you can understand your own game plan. It can be valuable to try and discern that game plan on your own, but to attempt that in a rapid time control isn't really feasible. If you want to win, you should play something you know. While not a blunder, strictly speaking, his position is quite a bit worse as of move 2. His first move denotes the French defense, but after c6, we can see that there's only a handful of games played in this order, and it doesn't turn out very well for black, with white winning 79% of the time. As someone who plays the French, I knew this was strange and was able to punish this quite easily. A very simple way to see why this is worse is to look at the mainline advanced French defense, which is the most common variation. We see that after the reserved e6 opening, black strikes back immediately with d5, not allowing his opponent to simply maintain full control of the center. Black usually retains the ability to either play a timely f6 after some development, or c5 straight away. Note that black is almost always taking 2 steps with the c-pawn, not 1. That fact alone, that c5 is almost always played in the advanced variation, makes c6 quite a bit worse, and if nothing else, indicates to your opponent that you don't know what you're doing. After seeing 2c6, I knew that I could play fast and solid and would likely win a simple game without getting into time control or too many complications. My opponent follows up with d5, and there's better moves here if you know exactly how to punish it, but as previously mentioned, I had a psychological edge as it was, so I just played the normal advanced variation, assuming my opponent didn't have a real game plan. He trades his bishop for the knight, and let me just say that at this point the computer has my advantage as almost +2. Now it's still very much a game, but I think that number reflects how much easier it is for me to develop my pieces. I can do almost no wrong. Meanwhile, my opponent is forced to develop awkwardly because of a single pawn move. You can see that the pawn on c6 blocks his knight, but that the knight isn't well placed on d7, where it blocks the light squared bishop. I, on the other hand, can place my pieces on good squares without hindering the rest of my development. Here, I go bishop d2 to threaten to double my opponent's pawns on the king side. Best here is for my opponent to just go knight f5, allowing the doubling of pawns. This would actually be an inaccuracy from white, as the advantage in this position is my dominant light squared bishop when compared to his, which is quite passive. Instead, I would just castle and only make this trade when my opponent has wasted moves towards developing his light squared bishop, the only real direction it can go at this point, which is toward b7. That all isn't relevant, however, because my opponent makes another uncharacteristic move for the French, which is queen h4. He's protecting the knight so as to not allow the doubling of pawns, but now I can make simple moves to kick around the queen. These are moves I can play quickly, while my opponent has to spend time to not get their queen trapped, since I control most of the squares on the king side. Usually, when you can attack your opponent's queen safely, you have a better position. In this case, my knight was aiming for f4 from the get-go, so now I can develop it there with the tempo after either queen h3 or queen h5. Note that if the queen goes anywhere else, I can just trade on h6 and double my opponent's pawns, exposing his king and giving white a winning position. So queen h3 it is, and knight f4 is planned, hitting the queen. Queen g4, and that's the only safe square for the queen, and now f3 to get it off that square. Here, what my opponent should do is go to queen g5 so that it can escape back towards its home square, but instead he blunders straight away with queen h5. It doesn't really matter at this point though, as the position is already +4 for white before I've even won the queen. After capturing the queen, it is totally hopeless. I trade off pieces knowing that I'll be up a full queen in the end, and aim toward his kingside for a quick attack to finish the game. He gives me the quick finish with h6 here, hanging the pawn and allowing my queen into the attack. It does give back the knight, but it opens up the g-file, which will let my rooks come into the game. He tries for some desperate defense with rook e6 hitting my queen, but rook g1 here would be checkmate if he couldn't block. So I just capture the rook with the pawn, shortly after, delivering the final blow on f8. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing if you'd like to see more.